As you are joining this morning, we're so happy to see you. Find that chat box. Let us know. We have a very special class today. And I want to know if you could ask one thing, or if there's one thing you wish you could get insider advice on from a funder, what would that be? So good morning, everyone. Find that chat box. We'd love to hear from you. What is one thing you wish you could get insider advice on from a funder? Thank you, Dolores. Yes, exactly. What makes an application stand out? The key question we are all wondering about. Thank you, Teresa. What grabs your attention in a grant request? Ooh, great question, Rob. What immediately rules out a potential grant request? All right, well, it seems to be quiet in the chat box, so apparently we know everything we need to know about funding. I'm just kidding. Well, we asked this question today because we have a very exciting class for you all. We are hosting a funder panel. I will talk more about that in a minute, but let's get our class started here. As we normally do, we're going to spend a couple minutes here just grounding ourselves in the class. Our lives get very busy. We spend a lot of time on our computers these days. It's nice to just take a couple minutes to remind ourselves and our bodies that we are not always attached to the computer. So I invite you to join me in just a little bit of a movement exercise here. So if you can close your eyes if you want, but you can keep them open. I'm going to have you reach all the way above your head and take a deep inhale through your nose to the count of 4. So as follows, all the way up to the count of 4, above your head, nice. And then exhale through your mouth, drop your arms. We're gonna do that 2 more times. So above your head, inhale through your nose. Oh, that's a good stretch, that feels nice. And out through your mouth. 1 more time, in through your nose. And out through your mouth. And then just roll your shoulders a little bit, kind of shake out your hands. Our wrists get really stiff from typing all day, so it's nice to just, again, remind our bodies that we don't always have to be so stiff. Thank you, and welcome to your coaching call today. What do we have planned? All right, so today's agenda, I am excited to introduce our panelists. We're going to have a funder discussion. We'll begin with an easy lightning round to get to know our panelists. Then we'll move into what I like to call hot potato funder questions. So I have a few questions that are key to understanding the foundations that are here today, as well as their jobs and some insight for you all who might be applying to their grant programs. We'll open it up to general Q&A because I'm sure you all are excited to ask your own specific questions. And then at the end, we will wrap up with just some general logistics, talking about what you can expect for the last week of your course and any questions you might have on what is expected. So let's get this moving. Welcome to our panelists. I'm so excited that the first half of our call today is all about hosting and welcoming representatives from 2 different foundations here in Indiana. They've generously donated their time today to be here with you to participate in our panel. And this will be a mix of getting to know them as individuals, as well as getting to know what grant writing is like from the perspective of the funder. This is a chance for all of us and all of you to understand a bit more about the process of grant writing as a whole, and to expand your understanding of this process of applying as somewhat more of a symbiotic relationship. You have all these great fundable projects, and they have the funds to support the great work. Now, how can you shift your thinking to find more of a balance of the 2 of you working together to achieve a greater mission? So our questions today for the panelists will kind of reflect that goal of understanding funding from a different perspective. Hi, Clint, good morning. And maybe some of their expectations, which will help you when you are applying in the future. So let's jump in here and meet our panelists. First, I want to say hi and good morning to Abby Lindsey, She is the lead program officer for the Dekko Foundation in Kendallville, Indiana. The Dekko Foundation is a private family foundation with the mission of fostering economic freedom through education. Abby is an active member of her community, where she was recently elected to the town council. She is a current member of the township trustee board and a member of the board of directors for a local community center. She also serves in youth programming at her church. Very active, very community-based. We're so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us, Abby. Maybe give us a wave here so we can see all of you.
Thanks for having me.
We're so glad you're here. And next, our second panelist today is, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your last name, Rich Spisak. Am I saying that correctly?
Spisak.
I apologize. Rich Spisak, okay. Thank you for your patience.
That's close.
He is the Senior Program Officer for the Ball Brothers Community Foundation in Muncie, Indiana. A native of Cleveland, Ohio, Senior Program Officer Rich Spisak holds a degree from Miami University, at Oxford, Ohio, and the University of Colorado. Love it. He joined the Ball Brothers Foundation staff in 2008 after successfully serving on the football coaching staffs at 4 universities, on the development staff at Ball State University. His responsibilities at the Ball Brother Foundation includes researching program areas, reviewing grant requests, conducting site visits, and tracking project results. So very community-based as well, youth-based. We are so excited to have you here, Rich. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you, Rose. Appreciate it.
Yes. So as now we know who our panelists are, we're going to move into a little more fun here to kind of get us all loosened up. Thinking about and changing up panel questions, I want to start with asking you about symbols that represent your work, or excuse me, the motivation behind your work. There can be times in life, especially in the nonprofit industry, where the work that we do becomes overwhelming and demanding, but yet we trudge on, especially in this industry. So I want to start and pivot to Abby first and ask you, what object did you choose to bring to us today that inspires the work that you do as a funder, and why did you bring it?
Okay, so I actually brought something to symbolize or represent the work, not necessarily motivate, but Mr. Dekko started our private family foundation, and I will go into all the details of Mr. Dekko, but if you ever have a chance and are curious, you should watch the video on our website, because he was just an amazing man who was a problem solver by nature. And he grew up during the Depression and just committed at an early age that he did not want to live the life that they were experiencing during the Depression, and saw education as his way to change his life and set him on a path to economic freedom. And so I brought two, I don't know if you can see these very well, but 2 roses from a plant in our landscaping, because as I thought about what we do, I thought this was a good representation of the work we do. They're both from the exact same plant, have been under the same conditions, same soil, same weather, but something was different that made this one bloom versus this one die. And so I think it's a representation of what we get to do, the work that we do every day here at the foundation, because we can provide that funding that helps organizations be that difference that impacts a child's life and helps them to blossom and sets them on that path to economic freedom. So our mission is fostering economic freedom through education. So Mr. Dekko liked to say that you could be successful by hard work, talent, and a little bit of luck. And we often like to say that we get to be that little bit of luck and provide that funding to the organizations who are building skills, knowledge, and character for young people so that they can turn out like this and thrive in their life and be economically free versus this sad little guy. So.
I love that. And I love the poetry and the metaphor of it. That's beautiful. And hard work, talent, and a little bit of luck. Those 3 things, right? I love it. That's a perfect recipe. Thank you for sharing. What about you, Rich? What is a symbol you might say either motivates you or maybe like Abby did, represents the work that you do?
Well, the Ball Brothers Foundation, we're 96 years old, so we've been around a long time. And the foundation is built on legacy and perpetuity and being around for forever. And what I brought is simple. When I was hired in 2008, this gentleman right here, can everybody see that? John Fisher was the chairman of the board, and he hired me. And not a Ball family, but he married into the family. But very well respected gentleman in the community. And so on my wall is that picture, along with a handwritten letter, which came from John when I got hired, which just reinforces every day the job we have to do in being stewards of these dollars and for the community. So that is looking at me every day when I come to work. And so that motivates me, and something that I really respect. So
Good choice. Power behind the picture and a written note. That is amazing leadership right there, to write a hand note in that way. Thank you for sharing. All right, so now I'm curious, you two, these are the hard-hitting questions. We're gonna move into something called the lightning round. I'm gonna ask you either or questions. These are just quick off the top of your head, should be quite simple, but just kind of getting to know you a little bit more. Abby, we're gonna start with you. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right, how about dawn or dusk?
Dawn.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Did you have a nickname as a child?
No, not really. I guess
Fair enough.
Shorty. Shorty was something that kids called me. I'm very short, 5'1".
That could be short. Yes, 5'1", definitely. What about favorite winter hobby?
I don't like the cold, so curled up under a blanket by the fireplace, reading a book with a cup of coffee in my hand.
Way to tie those together. What about favorite summer hobby?
I love to kayak, hike, run in the woods. So.
Okay, wonderful. What about a book that you read recently?
I'm reading several books right now, some for fun, some for learning. So I don't know which one I should highlight.
Give them both if you want, or none at all. It's up to you.
Well, I'm reading a lot about brain development with adolescents right now. So I'm reading The Neurodivergent Mind. It's not light reading.
Not a bedtime book?
No.
All right, fair enough. And last question, what is one food that you could eat for a week straight?
Oh, wow. That's a hard one too. I mean, I eat peanut butter toast every day, so I guess toast.
Peanut butter toast, great. You passed our lightning round. Nice job, thank you. All right, we're gonna switch to you, Rich. Dawn or dusk?
Dawn.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Nickname as a child?
My nickname was just shortened my last name, Spies. So I went by Spies.
I like that, Spies. Okay. Favorite winter hobby?
Well, I can't say I have a real favorite winter hobby. I like to travel, but haven't done much of it. So that's a hobby to come, I guess.
Okay. Summer hobby, maybe instead?
Golfing.
Awesome. That one's a fun one you can do anywhere. I like that. A book that you read recently?
The one we've read recently, Good to Great, by Jim Collins. We read that quite a bit for one of our fellow classes. So we reread it every year. So that's the one that sticks in my mind right now.
Perfect. And last hard question, something or a food that you could eat for a week straight.
I'd say pizza. I'm half Italian, so I love pizza. I can eat pizza anytime.
I like it. I put a little taco here. I could eat tacos for a week straight. That would be my
Tacos
answer.
are good too. Yeah.
Tacos are good too.
Yeah.
All right, Rich, you also passed the lightning round. Whew, nice job here. All right, so I'm going to take us off of screen share and open this up to gallery so that you can see all of us, because we're going to move into the hot potato questions here. And these are questions that, you know, pertain to the work that you do and the foundations that you represent. I'm going to keep with our rhythm. I'm going to start with Abby first and just ask you, first of all, what are the funding priorities for the Dekko Foundation, and anything else that you would like to let us know to get us kind of oriented, but specifically, what are the funding priorities?
Okay. So I mentioned that our mission is fostering economic freedom through education, and our board has established birth to 18 as the focus age range. And so primarily we have 4 different areas that we invest in. One would be early childhood, so that birth to 5-year-old age range, and thinking a lot about the childcare deserts that we're experiencing in our communities, but not just providing a childcare seat, but making sure that it's quality education and the right learning environment for child development, supporting parents as a child's first and best teacher, and just helping support young people in those very early years. And then the second would be middle childhood, and that's 6 to 12-year-olds. So helping, you know, whether it's school systems, parents, programming that's supporting that development for 6 to 12-year-olds. And then adolescence, of course, is 13 to 18-year-olds. And, you know, that there's a lot of different organizations that we invest in to support that development during that age frame. But one thing that our board is really looking at and focusing on right now, as we hear across the state, is helping young people know what their next step is after high school. So, and the why behind it. We think that's so important because it seems like we're seeing a pattern of young people taking their next step, but maybe don't know exactly why they're doing it, other than somebody said I should go to college, or somebody said, you know, I have this good talent. So helping young people think through that and making sure that they're well supported along the way. And then community is the last area that we invest in. Mr. Dekko felt strongly in the importance of community and building into the lives of the entire community so that young people are well supported. So that takes on a lot of different looks as well. So it could be anything from a splash pad to a community learning center. So those are our 4 areas that we invest in.
Thank you, and very clear, so all of us on the call know exactly what the Dekko Foundation is looking for. And I like that idea of young people who are taking that next step, like you said, just because someone has put them on that path. So you're helping them to understand why. I think that's really unique. Thank you for sharing. All right, Rich, what about you? What are the funding priorities for the Ball Brothers Foundation?
Well, the Ball Brothers Foundation, we're focused in Delaware County. 90% of our grants will go to Delaware County. We also fund the touching counties that touch Delaware, and then we can fund in the state of Indiana. But 90%, probably over 90% of our grants will stay right here. And our main goal is the quality of life in this area. And we'll fund all 6 focus areas, from arts and culture to education, environment, you name it. We're going to fund all those areas within this area to make it better. Along with that, we'll have all kinds of projects within those areas. So childhood learning, outdoor pursuits, you name it, emergency management. We'll develop those as the year goes on. But our main goal is very simple, is to help this East Central Indiana prosper, especially Delaware County. And it's very simple, concise, and our plan is to do that in perpetuity.
Fantastic, simple, just like you said, and thank you for clarifying your geographic region. And I love that you fund all 6 areas. Can you give us a little more? Do you truly feel like it's an equal playing field for all 6 areas, or this year for this grant cycle?
It's not an equal playing field by all means. I would say education is probably percentage-wise our highest. Arts and culture is up there just because of Minnetrista, which is a family cultural center that we fund here. But when you look at it, education is high, and then then the rest are probably with environment and human services. They all balance out probably in the 20% range, but education definitely is number 1.
Okay, that's good for us to know. Thank you for clarifying that. Awesome. Well, Rich, while we have you, how about we move into question number 2? Can you give an example of a particularly successful project your organization has funded in the past?
Yeah, I'll give you one of our initiatives that spun off all these focus areas. We call it Optimus Primary. But within our area, we have Ball Memorial Hospital, which is a large IU Ball Memorial Hospital. We have Ivy Tech, which is right here downtown. We have Ball State University. We have Meridian Services. And all these health services are located in a very close area. So, IU School of Medicine has they provide education here. Our residency program is actually second to the one in Bloomington. So, one of the tough things for our community and is keeping medical professionals local in our state, but especially in our community. So this project for us was to do a number of different things, from training to education to residency for the residents, you name it, was to get all the entities I just mentioned, all 6 of those, and have those organizations work together. They were all doing their own thing, but in separate silos. So this project, which has been going on for about 5 years, has been for us to issue grants to each of them. But there's a lot of connection between all those entities I mentioned: IU School of Health, IU Ball Memorial Hospital, Ball State, Ivy Tech, Meridian Health Services, and try to put them all together and not force them to work together, but ask them to work together in a nice way, which they have never done. So we're getting a little traction here. Things are starting to pick up. So that's probably one of the best projects we've done.
And that's amazing. Can I ask a small follow-up question? Because I'm hearing, and everyone on the call is hearing, that by these organizations working together, it was a better project for you to fund. In your position as the senior program officer, would you prefer that applicants come to you already with their partnerships, or do you have some leeway to kind of say, hey, if you two work together, this might be more appealing to us?
Well, Rose, you would love them for them to come here, but that doesn't happen. Okay. It doesn't happen. People are so busy. They're doing their own thing, and they just don't take the time to do it. So it's our job. It's one of our jobs, is to not force people and organizations to work together, but to maybe encourage and let them know that, hey, if you do this, something good could happen. So we'd love for them to come to us, but that doesn't happen.
Okay. Oh, but it might with this group. Everyone on the call, take note. If you're working with partners, bring it to Rich. It makes his job easier.
I must admit, with that said, the 6 organizations I mentioned, we issued RFPs to make it happen. Okay, so it wasn't like they came to us. We had the idea, we convened them, we shared the RFPs with everybody, so everybody knew what everybody was doing. So communication's a big part of this, and that's half the battle.
It is half the battle, communication. Well, thank you for sharing that. And what about you, Abby? What is one specifically successful project that you would like to share with us from the Dekko Foundation?
As I thought about it, it's so difficult because we work with so many great organizations that are doing great things for young people on a daily basis. And of course, we're looking for those who are building the skills, knowledge, or character in young people to help them build self-sufficiency for their future. And I thought before I shared about an organization, I wanted to mention that our board thinks of a grant as an investment. And so the something of value that we provide is that money to help support the initiative. And then we ask for something of value back. And that's the positive change that we would see in young people. And so when we work with an organization, we ask them to write a results statement. And it's not a checks and balances to say, oh, you know, you did well or you didn't do well. It's more of a way for us to be good stewards of the money that Mr. Dekko set aside to build a legacy in the communities and, you know, to advance the mission of fostering economic freedom through education. And so I was just recently reviewing the results of an organization that we've invested in for a while, and it's a local youth center. And what I think was so great, a couple of years ago, they came to us and asked us for a multi-year investment. And we've known this organization, worked with them for quite some time. And the leaders were saying, things are just different. And we're trying to understand what young people need going forward because what we've been doing is not working. And I thought that was so, it was a risk to be saying that to your, you know, a potential funder. But he knows us well. We know the director well. And he said, will you take a risk with me and invest in, you know, some exploration? So they kind of had to put on an entrepreneurial thinking cap as a leadership team and say, okay, what we've done for a lot of years for young people just isn't going to work going forward. When they started out providing after school care where young people could come, and they just really needed a safe place to hang out after school, middle school, and kind of the early high school age teenagers, and get some homework help, have some good adult mentoring, and just have some fun. But they found that through some changes with social media, technology, you know, the pandemic, that they weren't seeing kids coming to their center anymore. And so they just started trying different things. And we were able to invest in some of that support to help them just explore. And they've changed some things and had to eliminate some programs that they loved, that they held dear. But I think that's just a really evidence of a good leadership team when you can let go of a program that you've done for a while or pivot and change it to meet the needs of the young people, and so that they can go forward rather than being stagnant. And so they've done some things like started doing a family style meal and sitting around the table and having intentional discussions with teenagers to help meet, you know, some of those social emotional needs that are not being met at home. Not only does it provide food for them, for their bellies, but they're giving them that encouragement and support that they need, so that they can think about their decisions and be better prepared for the future. They're still doing some of the programming, but just doing it in a different way. And then they're doing a lot of thinking about how to support them as, you know, they head out after high school, because if they don't have a good support system at home, they may undersell themselves and just settle for something less. And so just really trying to build that confidence and character in these young people so that they can have the ability to go out, and if it's going to college, if it's getting a job, if it's learning a trade, just really supporting them. So that's a success that we've seen. They saw their numbers dwindle for a while, which they recognized as a red flag, and they started doing things in a different way and being much more intentional one-on-one. And they are now experiencing larger attendance than ever. And their leaders and volunteers are working with young people outside of even normal programming hours, and just providing that, being that champion in that young person's life. And we know from research that that's so important if young people don't have that at home, and have somebody championing for them. And so we saw that as a really big win.
Huge win. And what I'm really hearing from that as well is, like you said, the transparency of the organization to come forward to you and be honest and talk about the risk. Had they not come to you and been transparent, do you feel like Dekko Foundation would have continued, or would that have affected your relationship with that specific organization?
Well, I think it's an organization we've worked with for a while, but we've invested in them through the responsive grant side, and so of course they have to ask in order for us to invest. They're not one of our proactive initiatives, but I think that having that transparency helped them get to the next level too, because they weren't thinking, oh, we have to show the Dekko Foundation that our numbers are increasing every year. They understood that we want to see the skills, knowledge, and character being built. And if that's with less students, but in a more intense relationship that really helps support them and set them on the path to success, we're okay with that, because we know that they're doing what's needed at the time. And so I think that open relationship is just really helpful, and that open dialogue to help us know where they are and what they're needing next. So
okay, good to hear that communication is key for everyone on the call. Good to know that funder relationship. It is more than just who you are on paper. All right, so we're still on you, Abby. I'm going to ask you, getting into the good stuff, the things that we really want to know. What is your biggest pet peeve with applications, or maybe red flags for you that we can avoid?
I think we may be different than some funders in that we always tell grant seekers that the application is their starting point with us. We meet with every grant seeker, either personally, in person, or on a phone or Zoom call after we receive their application. And so we might not be quite as rigid as some other funders, but a couple of, I guess, pet peeves. Sometimes people are so excited about asking for the money and getting it right that they might use our own language to say a lot in the application, but not really say anything, if that makes sense. So I think just help us understand what you're trying to do. And it's good to research and understand a funder on their website and learn about their funding priorities and who they are and their mission. But you don't have to use that language in the application. I see that sometimes, and it's just that eagerness to, do the right thing so that, we can advance the missions together. But that's one thing that I think is hard when I read through an answer and think, I don't know exactly what's being said here.
Right. Those buzzwords can be confusing sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great advice. Okay. Use your own language. Say what you mean to say. I like it. Rich, what about you? Pet peeves, red flags. How can we appease you?
Well, much like Abby, our foundation, we're built on relationships 100%. I mean, we're able to do that because we're focused. So we know everybody and we know them well. But I would think the biggest pet peeve of mine, and there's many, but the one is when the budget doesn't match up with the narrative. They got to match up. And if you want salaries for somebody, then don't tell a bunch of stories. Personally, I don't really care about all the stories. I want to know what you want and how you want it and when you want it. And the budget's got to match up with that. And when they don't match up, then that's a big red flag. And I think it's constitutes a bad application.
Yeah, be clear in your budget, what you need, stay straightforward. Okay, I like it.
I would echo that too. I had that written down as a second thing that I didn't share, but that would be a red flag, would be that lack of transparency in the budget. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And adding to that as well, I don't know if you guys advertise, how much funding you give. For you guys, is it a pet peeve as well if people are not following those guidelines and they're asking for more than you give or less, or it happens to be spot on? Have you seen that?
Well, I can answer that, Rose. I mean, personally, what we do as a rule, we encourage all of our organizations to meet with us ahead of time. And so we can give them guidance. If it's something where we would not have any interest in, we tell them. We don't want them to waste the time applying. So when we do that, we usually give them a figure. We give them a figure that we would look at. Now, there's no guarantees, obviously. So we avoid the question that you just asked, maybe a big amount that we weren't expecting. I'd say 95%, we have that headed off in the beginning just because we have met with them way ahead of time, given them guidance, and we encourage that, and all our good organizations do that. If we get an application coming in and we don't know a thing about them or they haven't made us aware, then that's not a good place to start.
All right, that's great news for everyone on the call. And obviously both foundations are open to new applicants, but what I'm hearing is make that effort to build a relationship and see if you even align before you're going ahead and applying, which is what all of our grant writers here are learning to do anyway. So no struggle there. All right, Rich, we're on you. Let's move to, we have a frequent topic discussed during our cohorts, specifically about securing general operational funding. Our projects would not run without these general operating costs, yet a lot of organizations maybe don't want to fund those parts. Can you share interesting ways that you've seen organizations like the ones that are like the affiliates here on the call? How can they request general support? What would you recommend for them?
Well, I don't know if there's any interesting ways, but I keep going back to relationship. One, you have to have a great relationship to even begin that discussion. Because for us, and we have no problem with operational support at all levels. Because if you don't have the people and you don't have the computers and the rooms, you can't operate. So we have no problem with that. But you got to establish that relationship. You have to establish trust. And so we have to trust you. You have to trust us. And I think once that happens over a period of time, then us as a foundation, we offer a multi-year opportunity because of that, because we know that receiving multi-year operational grants is in your benefit, because now you can budget, you can make long-range plans, you can, it gives you more time to do your job. But we have to do our due diligence. Really, it's on us to offer those multi-year grants for operational support to the organizations that can handle it. We have given some recently, trying to be good funders, but probably was too much for them because they couldn't handle the financial part. So I'd say you have to demonstrate that you financially can handle a multi-year grant. And the financial end of it really seems to be the one area that a lot of small nonprofits have a tough time handling, especially an influx of a lot of money at once. So I don't know if, operational costs are a fact of life. So I think if you have a foundation that you're approaching that has no interest in that, then don't waste your time with them. You're not going to change their mind. Don't waste time. Just talk to the people in the organizations that have an interest. And I think you have to be upfront about it. Don't try to hide it. Don't try to cover it up. I think honesty is the best policy on both ends. That's how we operate. And if there's any advice I could give you, that's about it.
Absolutely. Well said. My small follow-up question to that, you said you want to build trust and have them demonstrate that they can handle the financials. Would you say that comes through the conversations you have with them in the demonstration of how they're doing?
I think comments comes through that, but it also comes through maybe a period of 3 or 4 years or longer of granting to that that organization, and then being able to get reports in on time, final reports, set up meetings regularly, keep us informed. It's a whole process, just as you would have with anybody. So I think once that is established, I think, to me, a good foundation is going to offer that to you because they want to make it better and they want to make the community better. And that's one way of doing it.
Okay, great. And Abby, same question to you. Any advice that you'd recommend for our writers here, our grant writers, for requesting general operating support or general operating funds?
Yeah, our board considers operating requests on a regular basis, and some of the things that they would be looking for as they think about an investment are the life cycle stage that you're in. I'd say very rarely are we going to do much in the way of operating with a brand new organization that we don't know much about, much like what Rich was speaking on, is having a little bit of established history. But at the same time, there are startup costs that are needed in a newer organization. So, we have the ability to take some risk too. It's very much individualized for each organization. And it comes down to that positive change that is going to be made. And so helping our board and helping us understand, what is going to be that change, and how you're going to go about it, and just being very clear on your plan. Some of the things that they would take into consideration as well are there other organizations that are supporting your work? Our board very rarely is going to be 100% of anything. And we typically want to be a small piece of that funding pie so that you can build sustainability. And I always talk to organizations about that, because it's important that if you were penciling in a funder every year and then for some reason the funding was not available, that could be detrimental to your organization and your programming. And so it's important to have a very diverse funding pie. And so that's one thing, that we take really seriously as we're looking and considering operating support. But oftentimes there is an operating gap. And sometimes that might be short-lived because of a circumstance that happened. And so it's very much, a case-by-case basis on how our board would consider it. But to the extent that you can help an organization, a funder, understand, why you need this support, what it's going to do, and what your long-term plans are, so that you can advance your mission together, I think will help you gain that operating support.
That's great advice. And what we teach in our course is definitely having writers learn how to stack grants and move them together and, kind of strategically work together to do that budget. So thank you for for sharing that. Before we move into our last question here, everyone who's on the call, if you would like to ask a question, please hit the chat box and either type your question in there. We're going to open it up for Q&A because we're running out of time. So please either put your name if you'd like to ask it, yourself, or you can just type the question in the chat box. That way I know who I can call on. I'm going to deviate a little bit here because Beth had a really great question. You two have both let us know that the relationship part of funding is integral. It is so important. A lot of people on this call maybe don't work with you as a foundation yet, but they'd like to. So we teach our participants to, if they want to do funder outreach, they do all their research, alignment, make sure that it's a good fit for you and for them. But what would you suggest are the next steps for potential applicants to make a relationship with you? Is an email work, email and then meeting? What would be your ideal situation? We'll start with you, Abby.
Well, I think either reach out via email or give us a call. And I love coffee, so I'm happy to sit down and get a cup of coffee and just talk through, who you are as an organization, explain a little bit more in depth who we are as an organization. I didn't mention our geographical funding region, but we have very set counties that we invest in as well, based on where Mr. Dekko either had personal or business interests. But I mean, if you look at our three entry points into establishing a grant request, or whether or not you're a nonprofit organization, you have to have a 501c3 or we can invest in you, our geographical region, and that you serve young people. And if you fit those, we're happy to meet with you in person and just have a short conversation to help you understand who we are and to help us get to know you. So I have the autonomy to be able to do that, and I'm thankful for that, because as Rich said, with his organization, we're very much relational and happy to do that. And it often saves both of us time. Not that it's about time savings, but again, we don't want you to spend a lot of time filling out an application and trying to get the wording all just right if it's not going to be a fit. And so having that conversation on the front end will just help you so that you can continue to do your good work in your organization.
Okay, great advice. What about you, Rich? What do you think? Advice?
Well, it's pretty much the same as Abby said. We're open, our foundation, to talk with anybody, or so email or phone. But we will be very honest. So if we don't have an interest, we're going to tell you. If we have a little bit of interest, then we'll probably want to find out some more. But we're open. We'll never turn anybody down as far as trying to talk to us, and so however best fits your mode of getting to us is fine with us. I would suggest this: if you do get that kind of meeting, and you mentioned it, Rose, you got to be prepared. You don't walk into one of those meetings and say, "Okay, tell me what you're about," or "What do you fund?" That tells me you haven't done your research. So you should know everything about that foundation. Because if they don't fund things you're interested in, you shouldn't be calling them anyway. So you need to do your end, and the way it works out, you're going to get out of 10. You may, if you're lucky, you'll get 3. It's always a third. It's always worked out that way. I don't know why, but if you're fundraising, you call 10 people, you're going to get 3 people who donate. If you're looking for funds, it's the same way. It's always a third. So I think set your goals high, but don't be deflated when someone says no.
Oh, great advice. I'm going to put that to the test, though, Rich. I'm going to keep track and see if that third method.
No, it works Rose, it works every time. You keep track. Go ahead.
Okay, I will. Okay, great advice. And don't worry, all of our participants, they know how to reach out to funders. So everything you're learning in your course, for everyone on the call, remember they're telling you right now, this is exactly how you should be contacting funders, which is great. Okay, one last question here from Hannah. Both of you mentioned that the application for you is kind of just a stepping stone. It's more about the relationship, but you still require grant applications. So are there any personal touches that you would like to see in the applications or anything you're really looking for? Rich, we'll start with you.
Well, I would say keep it simple. This is me now, and this is our foundation. Keep it simple. Answer the questions. You know, don't go beyond. You know, all the attachments in the world is not going to make a big difference. I mean, you have to have some, but just be simple. Answer the questions. You know, who are you? What do you want? Why do you want it? When do you want it? And how much do you want? And if you answer those questions and you're very honest and your budget matches up with that, to me, you're doing exactly what you have to do. And that's what a funder doesn't want to read through about 10 stories of, you know, I'm not saying they're not good, but personally, I get bored when I start reading those because you're trying to cover up something. I mean, you're not getting to the point. And so we like you to get to the point, and we will be as transparent as we could be. And that's kind of how we operate.
Easy, keep it simple. Great advice. Abby, what about you?
I think the same thing. We've tried to streamline our application over time we've asked the questions that we think are important to help us in that pre-work and helping us understand before we go to a review meeting with you. So answer the questions and provide, you know, the information to the best of your ability. Have we ask for a couple of different budget documents. Sometimes people don't send those. That can be frustrating when we have to go back and forth a couple of times trying to track those down. So, you know, be sure to upload the documents that are requested, but again, don't go overboard and, you know, trying to kind of wow us, because we just want to understand, you know, the work that you're proposing to do. So
straightforward. I like it. Great advice that we can all follow. Well, thank you. That's all the questions that we had for open Q&A, and we're almost on the top of the hour here. I want to save the last 5 minutes for our class so we can wrap up some logistics. Rich or Abby, is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we let you go on with your day? Rich, anything else?
No, I would say this, you know, when it comes to foundations, we're nothing special. You know, I think when foundations start thinking they're above everybody, then they're not doing their job. I mean, so you shouldn't be afraid to call, text, write, whatever you want to do. Most of us, we have cell phone. Our cell phones are out. We have their cell phones. They have ours. I mean, if we need them, we can get a hold of them. And so, don't be bashful about contacting a foundation, and don't be afraid of going right to the top. You know, when you need money, be upfront, be organized, and be explicit, but don't be timid.
Perfect. What about you, Abby? Any last words for us?
I would say don't take a no personally either. And, you know, sometimes if you're declined in a grant request, for us, that doesn't mean you can't come back and send us another request. And if there's ever questions that you have, don't sit back and wonder, you know, reach out by phone or email. And, you know, we're happy to talk through it. And, I always give the disclaimer that I don't have the final say. It's our board that makes the decisions. So it takes the pressure off of me as a program officer. But, you know, we all want you to be successful because you are doing great work. And for us, we need nonprofit organizations in order to advance our mission because we're a private family foundation. And so just keep up the good work. And if you do receive a no, you know, it's just part of the process. And it doesn't mean that you can't reach out and ask more questions or send us another request. So.
Great. Don't take no's personally. That's a good mental note. Well, thank you both Abby and Rich. On behalf of myself and Indiana Youth Institute and all of our participants, we thank you so much for donating your time to be with us today and give us all this insight. We wish you well in your day. If you're here for the course, please stay on the call. We still have a couple more things to cover, but Rich and Abby, you are more than welcome to leave us today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you, Abby.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Take care. All right, everyone, we have 3 minutes to wrap this up. That was so much fun and I learned so much. I love these panel discussions. Just a reminder, this is week 5. You only have one more week of this course. So what should you be working on? Well, Friday is your deadline to turn in your funding strategy. Remember, that is one of your deliverables for passing this course and getting your certification. We require 1 per organization. If you're having any trouble getting together with your colleague, please email me and let me know. But otherwise, your funding strategy is due on Friday. You can submit that through the Google form. It is linked on all of your emails, Monday and Friday. That's just your name, and then you can submit your file. You're also working on your funding research assessment. That's just a short, I think, 5-question assessment on your platform after module 2. And then also keeping on track, you are finishing module 3, videos 3.3 through 3.6. All of that is in your schedule here. You can see that we are coming up at the end of week 5. So that's going to keep you on track here. I'm always here for questions. Wow. So I do want to leave you with one thing to wrap up and summarize everything that we learned today. The 2 foundations that we heard from, again, they're private foundations, so their advice about funder relationship is critical for you to understand for all foundations. Now, federal agencies and federal funding might be a little bit different. They still require a relationship with the funder, but they might be more picky about their grant applications. So keep that in context when you're looking at the different funding organizations. We also learned that communication is key today. Both of them said that over and over. So all of you are trained, amazing individuals. Don't be afraid to take that next step, especially with your funding strategies being wrapped up. You know, like the top 5 to 6 organizations you're interested in. If you get those power prospectuses ready to go, then you are ready to send an email and try and get yourself a meeting and see if you can get to that next step, right? You can all do this, and they're real people just like us. We got to see today. It was fantastic. So last thing before we leave here, I want you to find the chat box and please share with me. I'm just curious, what was one light bulb moment that you learned today in our panel? What did you learn that maybe you didn't know before? Was there a light bulb moment? Hearing from Rich and Abby, what was a light bulb moment for you? Also, Beth and Hannah, great questions. Thank you. Nice. Don't be timid. I love it. Yeah, funder outreach is intimidating, but like we heard today, it's all good. Send them a call. I didn't realize the foundation representatives were so eager and willing to meet or contact. Yes, we have this idea in our head that they're so intimidating, but they want to know you. They want to give you money. Keep it simple. Communication is important. Be transparent in what you're asking. Yes. Not to use their language. Yes. Just say what you need to say, very simple. And simple and concise. Thank you, Chelsea. James, hearing it re-emphasized for me to keep the grant apps simple. Yet again, storyteller, me too. I want to include all the narratives. And you still can in grant applications, but it depends on your relationship with the funder, it sounds like. Rich wants it simple. And then don't overuse their language. Wonderful. Yes, it sounds like today was very valuable, and I'm glad to hear that. We do have one more class next Wednesday. We will meet. We will talk a little bit more about learning today, and maybe because you might be interested, I'm going to incorporate some more notes on funder outreach. So stay tuned. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Other than that, have a great rest of your week and good luck in turning in those funding strategies. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.